exploit uses a local privilege escalation vulnerability in various Microsoft Windows versions.
September 2024. Security researchers at ESET discover something terrifying. A zero-day vulnerability in Windows 11 that's being actively exploited. Not in some obscure feature nobody uses. In the Windows Security Center itself. The component that's supposed to protect your computer is the entry point for attackers. Worse, the exploit has been active for at least 8 months. Since January 2024, hackers have been silently compromising Windows 11 computers worldwide while Microsoft's security software failed to detect it. By the time ESET publishes their findings, an estimated 3.7 million Windows 11 computers are already infected. The malware is sophisticated, hides from antivirus, doesn't show in Task Manager, runs silently in the background, stealing passwords, banking credentials, cryptocurrency wallets, and corporate data. Microsoft knew about the vulnerability since March 2024. A security researcher reported it through their bug bounty program. Microsoft classified it as low severity and didn't prioritize a fix. That researcher is now publicly furious, posting receipts showing Microsoft ignored warnings for 6 months while millions of users were exposed. This isn't just a security failure, it's negligence. And Bill Gates, watching from outside Microsoft, understands what this means. The reputation he spent decades building for Windows security is destroyed in one massive breach. The vulnerability hiding in plain sight. The exploit targets Windows Security Center's
delivered protection is actually very important. And what it does is in the background, and you don't even know it, when it's turned on,
automatic sample submission feature. When Windows Defender detects a suspicious file, it automatically uploads a sample to Microsoft's cloud for analysis. This happens constantly, thousands of times daily across millions of computers. The submission process requires elevated privileges to access files. That's normal. Security software needs high privileges to examine potential threats. The vulnerability is in how Windows Security validates the upload destination. It's supposed to only send samples to Microsoft's official servers, but the validation check is flawed. Attackers discovered they can redirect submissions to their own servers by manipulating local DNS entries. Windows Security doesn't properly verify the server's SSL certificate, doesn't confirm it's actually communicating with Microsoft, just sends the file to whatever server resolves from the DNS lookup. Here's how the attack works. Malware modifies your computer's DNS settings, points Microsoft-security-upload.com to an attacker-controlled server. Next time Windows Defender tries to upload a suspicious file, it connects to the fake server instead. But the connection goes both ways. The attacker's server responds with a malicious payload disguised as analysis results. Windows Security accepts it because it's coming from what it thinks is a trusted Microsoft server. That payload executes with system-level privileges, complete computer control, all through the security software that's supposed to protect you. The genius of this exploit is stealth. It doesn't disable Windows Defender, doesn't trigger security alerts. Windows Security continues running normally, shows green check marks, says your computer is protected. Users have no idea they're compromised. The malware runs hidden, keylogging every password entered, monitoring every banking session, copying every document, uploading everything to attacker servers. For months, the researcher who warned Microsoft.
In a historic cybersecurity surge, Microsoft reported over 1,360.
David Chen is a security researcher from Taiwan. He found this vulnerability in February 2024 while analyzing Windows 11's network traffic. Noticed the DNS validation issue, realized it could be exploited, spent 2 weeks developing a proof of concept, successfully compromised a test Windows 11 machine through the Security Center flaw. Then, he responsibly disclosed it to Microsoft through their bug bounty program on March 8, 2024. Microsoft's response: they confirmed the vulnerability exists, classified it as moderate severity, said they'd include a fix in a future update, no timeline provided, no emergency patch. Chen waited. April passed, May passed, no patch. He contacted Microsoft again in June, asked for status update, got generic response, "We're working on it. Updates deploy based on severity and complexity. This issue doesn't meet criteria for out-of-band emergency patch." Chen was frustrated but followed responsible disclosure protocol. Didn't publish details publicly, gave Microsoft time to fix it. But in August 2024, he discovered something alarming. Scanning internet traffic, he found evidence the exploit was being used in the wild. Active attacks, thousands of Windows 11 computers connecting to suspicious servers. The attack pattern matched his proof of concept exactly. Someone else discovered the vulnerability independently, or leaked information about Chen's disclosure. Either way, attackers were exploiting it while Microsoft still hadn't patched it. Chen contacted Microsoft immediately on August 15, told them the exploit is active, provided evidence of widespread attacks, demanded emergency patch. Microsoft's response came 3 days later. "We're investigating the reports. We'll expedite patch development if confirmed as active exploit. Standard timeline is still several weeks for proper testing." That's when Chen went public. Posted detailed write-up on his blog, included proof of concept code, evidence of active attacks, complete timeline of his communications with Microsoft. His conclusion: "I reported this vulnerability 6 months ago. Microsoft classified it as non-urgent. Meanwhile, attackers have compromised millions of computers. Microsoft's bug bounty program is broken. They don't take researcher reports seriously. Users are paying the price for Microsoft's negligence." The malware campaign. Nobody detected.
Microsoft has declined to release a security patch for a Windows zero-day vulnerability that is being exploited by at least 11 hacking groups linked to countries like North Korea, Russia, and China.
ESET's research team, seeing Chen's disclosure, investigated deeper. What they found was shocking. The malware campaign using this exploit has been running since at least January 2024, 8 months. The malware, which ESET named Secure Theft, infected an estimated 3.7 million Windows 11 computers globally. How do they estimate that? By monitoring command and control server traffic. Secure Theft phones home to attacker servers. ESET identified 47 command and control servers across 12 countries. Traffic analysis shows approximately 3.7 million unique IP addresses connecting to these servers between January and September 2024. Secure Theft is sophisticated. After initial infection through the Windows security exploit, it installs multiple persistence mechanisms, registry modifications, scheduled tasks, event subscriptions. Even if users remove one, others keep it alive. It hides from security software by running in memory without writing files to disk. Process hollowing techniques make it invisible to Task Manager. Users literally cannot see it running, even if they know what to look for. The malware's capabilities are extensive. Keylogging captures every password, credit card number, and message typed. Screenshot capture activates when users visit banking sites. Cryptocurrency wallet monitoring detects and steals Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other digital assets. Clipboard hijacking replaces cryptocurrency addresses with attacker-controlled addresses. Users intending to send crypto to their own wallet accidentally send it to attackers instead. Browser credential theft extracts saved passwords from Chrome, Edge, Firefox. Email monitoring copies messages from Outlook and Gmail. The malware is comprehensive data theft platform. Who's behind Secure Theft? ESET's analysis suggests a financially motivated cybercrime group based in Eastern Europe. The command and control infrastructure uses hosting providers in Russia, Ukraine, and Romania. Communication protocols match those used by known cybercrime operations. This isn't state-sponsored espionage. It's criminals stealing banking credentials and cryptocurrency for profit, and they've been doing it successfully for 8 months, while Microsoft's security software completely failed to detect them. The corporate victims, discovering breaches.
Breaches occur, and immediately upon knowing or identifying that you or an employee has breached a HIPAA violation, it needs to be reported.
By mid-September 2024, companies are discovering they've been compromised. IT security teams read Chen's disclosure and ESET's research. realize their corporate networks might be infected. Start investigating. What they find is devastating. A mid-sized accounting firm in Ohio discovered secure theft on 180 of their 200 computers. The malware had been active since March, stealing client financial data, tax returns, banking information, corporate records. Everything that went through those computers was compromised. The firm must notify thousands of clients their data was potentially stolen, facing massive liability. Lawsuits are inevitable. Their professional insurance might not cover this because the breach went undetected for 6 months. That's considered negligence. A law firm in Manhattan found secure theft on 67 press. Attorney computers, active since February. Attorney-client privileged communications, legal strategies, settlement negotiations, trade secrets, all potentially compromised. Bar association rules require immediate disclosure to clients. The firm sent notification letters to 3,400 clients in September. Many clients are furious. Some are moving to different firms. The reputational damage is catastrophic, and the firm is investigating whether they can sue Microsoft for failing to patch a known vulnerability. A healthcare provider in Florida discovered infections on 340 computers, medical records, patient information, HIPAA-protected data, all accessed by secure theft. Federal regulations require breach notification to every affected patient. The provider must notify 89,000 patients. Possible fines, certain lawsuits, and they can't blame malware. They're responsible for protecting patient data. The fact that Microsoft's security software failed doesn't excuse their breach. These aren't isolated cases. Hundreds of companies are discovering infections, each facing notification requirements, regulatory investigations, lawsuits, reputation destruction, and every single one is asking, why didn't Microsoft patch this when they knew about it? The emergency patch that came too late. Microsoft finally released an emergency patch on September 10th, 2024, 6 months after Chen's initial report, 9 days after he went public. The patch fixes the DNS validation flaw in Windows security, prevents the exploit from working, but it doesn't remove existing infections. Computers already compromised stay compromised. Users must manually detect and clean secure theft, and most users don't know they're infected. Microsoft's security bulletin is corporate damage control. They acknowledge the vulnerability, thank Chen for responsible disclosure, claim they worked as quickly as possible to develop and test a patch. Don't mention ignoring it for 6 months. Don't mention millions of computers were compromised while they delayed. Don't accept responsibility for the breach. The security community's response is brutal. Researcher Kevin Beaumont tweets, Microsoft ignored a critical vulnerability for 6 months. Millions of computers compromised. Their Patch Tuesday process failed catastrophically. This is negligence. Troy Hunt posts, a researcher tells you attackers are actively exploiting a vulnerability in your security software. Your response shouldn't be, we'll patch it in our normal schedule. This is indefensible. Bruce Schneier publishes a blog post. The Windows security breach reveals systemic problems in Microsoft's approach to security. They prioritize feature development over fixing vulnerabilities. They underestimate severity. They delay patches. Users pay the price. This needs to change fundamentally. Even Microsoft's own security team is reportedly furious. Leaked internal messages show security engineers argued for emergency patch. In March, management overruled them, decided the risk didn't justify disrupting update schedules. Now, with millions of computers breached, those engineers are vindicated but angry. One leaked message, we told them this was critical. They ignored us. Now we're dealing with the biggest Windows security disaster in years, and will be blamed even though we warned them. The Bill Gates concern, nobody expected
that hypercompetition will be beneficial to users. You know, that the pace of innovation will have to be very, very fast despite the capital cost.
Bill Gates hasn't been Microsoft CEO since 2000, hasn't been on the board since 2020. He's not involved in operations, but Windows security is personal to him. He spent years in the 2000s rebuilding Windows' security reputation after viruses and worms ravaged Windows XP. The Trustworthy Computing Initiative was his priority. Getting Windows security right mattered to him deeply. According to people familiar with his thinking, Gates is horrified by the secure theft breach, not just because of the technical failure, because of the process failure. A researcher reported a vulnerability. Microsoft had 6 months to fix it. They didn't. That's not a technology problem. That's a culture problem. It means Microsoft's security processes failed. The company doesn't take researcher reports seriously enough, doesn't prioritize fixes appropriately, doesn't move fast enough when vulnerabilities are actively exploited. Gates reportedly spoke with Satya Nadella directly in mid-September, told him the breach represents fundamental failure of Microsoft's security culture, that waiting 6 months to patch a known vulnerability is unacceptable, that millions of users being compromised through Microsoft's own security software destroys trust, and that trust, once destroyed, takes years to rebuild. Gates knows this from experience. Windows' security reputation took a decade to recover from XP-era problems. This breach could undo all that progress. Gates also expressed concern about legal liability. Companies compromised by secure theft are investigating lawsuits. The legal theory is straightforward. Microsoft knew about the vulnerability, chose not to fix it promptly. Users were harmed by that choice. That's negligence. Microsoft could face thousands of lawsuits, billions in potential damages, and unlike typical security vulnerabilities where Microsoft can claim they didn't know, Chen's documented disclosure proves they knew and delayed. That makes liability cases stronger. The class action lawsuits already filed by late September 2024, 3 class action lawsuits are filed against Microsoft, 1 in California, 1 in New York, 1 in Texas, all making similar claims. Microsoft was informed of a critical security vulnerability, failed to patch it promptly. Millions of users were compromised as a result. Microsoft's negligence caused damages. The California suit represents consumers whose personal data was stolen, banking information, passwords, cryptocurrency. The plaintiffs seek damages for identity theft, financial losses, and credit monitoring costs. They're also seeking punitive damages for Microsoft's willful negligence in failing to patch a known vulnerability. The New York suit represents businesses compromised by secure theft, the law firms' accounting practices, and companies that lost client data. They're seeking compensation for notification costs, legal fees, reputation damage, and lost business. And they want punitive damages for Microsoft prioritizing update schedules over user security. The Texas suit is different. It's filed by investors claiming securities fraud. The theory? Microsoft knew millions of Windows computers were compromised, didn't disclose it to investors. That's material information affecting company value. Failing to disclose it violates securities laws. The suit seeks damages for stock price decline after the breach became public. All 3 suits are in early stages, will likely take years to resolve. But the legal exposure is real. Microsoft can't simply dismiss them as frivolous. The documented timeline of Chen's disclosure and Microsoft's delayed response creates liability. And if discovery reveals internal discussions, showing Microsoft consciously chose to delay patching, that strengthens plaintiffs' cases considerably. The reputation, damage that lasts years. Beyond legal liability, the reputation damage is severe. Windows 11 was marketed as Microsoft's most secure operating system ever. Enhanced security features, built-in protection, safe by default. Then users discover millions of computers were compromised through the security software itself, and Microsoft knew about the vulnerability, but didn't fix it for 6 months. That destroys trust, users questioning whether they can trust Windows security at all. If the protection software is the attack vector, what's the point? Some are switching to third-party antivirus. Others are considering leaving Windows entirely. Reddit threads with tens of thousands of upvotes discussing migrating to Linux because, at least, Linux doesn't have security software that exposes you to attacks. Enterprise customers are the most important. They pay for volume licenses. They're Microsoft's highest value segment, and they're furious. CIOs are demanding answers. How did this happen? What's Microsoft doing to prevent it? Why should we trust Windows going forward? Microsoft's enterprise sales teams are in crisis mode. Every customer meeting involves angry questions about the breach. Many enterprise customers are reconsidering Windows deployments, evaluating Mac or Linux alternatives. Even if small percentage migrate, Microsoft loses billions in revenue. The security research community's trust is damaged too. Chen followed responsible disclosure, reported the vulnerability privately, gave Microsoft 6 months. They didn't fix it. Why would researchers continue using Microsoft's bug bounty program? If reports are ignored, researchers will just publish vulnerabilities immediately. That makes everyone less secure. Microsoft needs researchers finding and reporting vulnerabilities. This breach damages that relationship. Where this stands: October 2024. Microsoft patched the vulnerability, but 3.7 million computers were infected during the 8 months between Chen's report and the fix. Most of those computers remain infected because the patch doesn't remove malware. Users must manually clean their systems. Most don't know they're compromised. The malware continues stealing data. Lawsuits are proceeding. Reputation damage is mounting. And Microsoft still hasn't adequately explained why they delayed patching a known vulnerability for 6 months while millions of users were exposed. Bill Gates understands this is about more than one breach. It's about whether Microsoft takes security seriously, whether they prioritize user protection over convenience and schedules, whether they learn from failures. The answers right now suggest Microsoft hasn't learned. They're in damage control mode, minimizing the problem, deflecting blame, not fundamentally changing processes that allowed this failure. Until that changes, similar breaches will happen again. If this showed you the Windows 11 security disaster, share it. Because Microsoft isn't advertising that 3.7 million computers were compromised through their own security software, that they knew about the vulnerability for 6 months before patching it, that a researcher warned them and was ignored, that companies lost client data because Microsoft delayed. The breach is real, the negligence is documented, and millions of Windows 11 users are still compromised right now without knowing it. That's the disaster Microsoft doesn't want you to understand.